Welcome to the Western Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Gabriela Millian. We'll take you through exhilarating conversations highlighting modern women who have taken the path less traveled towards living authentically and helping others do the same. Western society is an interesting place that has brought innovation for the rest of the world, but sometimes we find our culture struggling in areas that some would argue are more important. Each guest will give a new take on how they've tackled some of these struggles, and my longtime friend Jennifer Tatiana is just the person to talk to. Jen is a former journalist who's used her passion for information and innate curiosity to guide her into a pursuit of holistic health coaching, with an emphasis on circadian rhythms and quantum biology. She believes humans are multifaceted, but our shared truth is light, water, and magnetism. And if those three pillars of health are in rhythm with the cycles of nature, the human body can ease its way towards healing. Thank you to my dear friend Jennifer for being here. So I know you and I have gone on and on about talking about how Western society has affected our health in particular, but I would first ask you, what is a Western woman to you?
So I think, and we've talked about this so much offline, right? But there's so many different variations, and I think it really depends on your own experience and what you've lived and what you've witnessed, right? But I would say, for me personally, on my journey, I would say there's so many great parts about being a Western woman, right? But there are a lot of drawbacks as well in the fact that I feel like we're always looking for a fix for something. Most of the women that I've encountered, whether that be in my time in the TV news industry or even today in corporate America, it always seems like we're looking for a fix for something. And there's either carnivore diet or the nervous system regulation or the protocol for Lyme or gut or this or that. And so I just feel like Western women are always searching for answers for something. And I think that it kind of draws back to that disconnection that we have here in the West with in terms of nature and also even just faith. And I think having like just an inner peace, I think that's missing in this society. Why we have many comforts, and I think that's great. But I also think that we're missing kind of like the peace that comes with faith or nature. And I think folks in the East have that just figured out in a better sense. So,
Sure.
yeah.
No, I totally feel you on that. I mean, as far as I feel like that's why both of us got more drawn to Eastern belief systems
Yeah.
or just an Eastern way of living, whether it's Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, things of that nature. But for you in particular, I know this journey into circadian biology
Yeah.
definitely started with your own health.
Yeah.
So, what were the kinds of health issues you were experiencing that made you realize, maybe the traditional ways of looking at health that I was doing aren't really what's helpful right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I think things came to a head for me when I was 26 turning 27. I had spent since 20 years old in the news industry. So I was going on almost 8 years of not stopping ever, whether that was moving to the middle of nowhere to be a news anchor, news reporter, or coming back to Jersey and kind of competing in the number one market, which, as you know, is very, very competitive. And you need to be in heavy masculine energy to be able to keep up with the demands of that. I didn't know anything about that at the time. You were my first exposure to that. And it just made sense. And for me, I was dealing with a lot of headaches, and I was thinking when it came to a situation when I was turning 27, what ended up happening was I was going to stop being in the news industry. My TV station closed down, and so for the first time in almost 8 years, I had 2 months of not working. And while I was looking for a job, it was concerning to me that my criteria was what job can I work that I may be able to be excused 3 days of the week for my migraines? And I was like, hold on a minute. What? How could that be the thing that I'm looking at here? Not, will I enjoy the job, but actually, will the job excuse me because I honestly, at the time, I didn't know chronically ill with chronic headaches. And so I decided to start going down rabbit holes of food, right? I feel so many people fall into food. So food and how can this help me? And I did a lot of different food work, elimination diets and things of the sort. But then I realized like over time that it wasn't just food. It was emotions. It was not living in alignment with your purpose. And so I ended up kind of going down these rabbit holes that have led me to now when I discovered this past summer the concept of circadian biology. And that really has helped me heal faster than even the food or some of like the emotional work, because it's kind of just returning to the biology of what we should be doing, and that perfect alignment with nature, which is a long-winded answer to say that headaches were definitely the primary health concern for me, also irregular periods. And I also developed kind of chronic tinnitus in one of my ears, which is something that happens to older people. So I was like, hold on a minute, I'm 28. Why is this happening? And when I went to the doctors, they would be like, here is this pill. And I was like, but I don't have what this pill says it should be treating. And that's when I was like, this can't be the way.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, most definitely. I feel like kind of what you were saying is what happens with a lot of women I've seen is once they start approaching 30, they think that these health ailments are because they're approaching 30
Yeah.
and not because of
Goodness.
the outside influences or types of food that they're eating, all of the things that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And I remember like even having a conversation with a friend of mine recently. I was like, I feel so much better at 30 years old than I do at 20 because I have a completely different lifestyle. And that's something that when I saw you with your journey and how you were changing your lifestyle, I was like, oh, yeah, she gets it. Like there are certain things we're not in line with nature anymore, which is really, it's sad because I mean, you can literally, outside is outside. It's right there.
It's such a simple concept to
it's so
walk
simple.
outside,
Just walk outside.
but it has to be so intentional.
Yes. And the way that you do it. And
Yeah.
so I guess what I wanted to ask you is how do you feel that modern society is disconnecting us from nature? And what were the ways that you felt you were able to finally kind of bring that back into your own lifestyle to find a little bit more recalibration, harmony in different
Yeah.
ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I have to speak particularly to my experience, and I think a lot of people could possibly relate, but I do want to say, Gab, that you're 100% right. Me at 20 and me at 30 now, night and day. I was a mess at 20. Hormones all over the place, been on birth control for like a decade, just sad all the time. And now at 30, I have a lot of peace and a lot of understanding when I feel something wrong with my body. I'm not running to the Advil. I'm not running to Google. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And it's as simple as going outside, closing your eyes, and having a minute and being like, what is happening? And I'll get answers. I'll be like, I'm thirsty. Something that's not even obvious. Sometimes I'm like, wow. Or I need to walk around the block 3 times. And you do that, and I swear I feel better. But that segues into your point, how we're being disconnected. I would say that interestingly enough, when I was a news reporter, I think I was healthier than transitioning into a corporate lifestyle or even the COVID era where we had to stay inside the whole time. Because as a news reporter, as you know, you're not really inside under artificial lights. You're outdoors and yes, you're stressed. So there's a balance here. But you're outdoors chasing the story, and that requires you to be outside. We're known to be in the elements. We're cold when it's cold out. We're hot when it's hot. And I didn't realize that was actually a blessing in disguise. At the time, I didn't realize it, but I'm like, wow, I was in shape when I was a news reporter. I was running around everywhere. I was outside exposed to natural light. What I've realized going into the corporate space is that people wake up, they switch on the lights, they don't go outside, they get in a car. So you go from your inside house to your car. Then you drive in your car with windows up because nobody wants to be uncomfortable nowadays. So nobody wants to be cold. So they drive to the office, they get to the office, and then they're under these lights all day long. And then 5 p.m. rolls around, the sun's going down, you didn't go outside all day, you get in your car, you go home, and then you turn on all the lights at home, and you act like it was day even though it's night. And so when are you going outside? When are you having any sort of intentional time literally outside? And so something that I've done is I make such intentional light breaks during my workday. I'll go outside to the courtyard. Interestingly enough, the place for smokers, because that's where people go. Unfortunately, the only time is when they're going out to smoke. And so I go out and I make it a point to have these intentional light breaks, and they have made such a difference in my day. And I tell other people to do it, and when they do that, they come back inside and they're like, my eyes don't hurt as much. I feel better. But then the problem is you've got to be on those calls. You've got to be in this meeting and here. You got to do that and this. And so I think that the pressures of keeping up with a career, especially here in the West, and it's just, I think that that's keeping us from being outside and being in nature. And I understand it's a privilege to be able to go outside and have those moments. So I think just the demands of society are keeping us inside.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and it's so funny you mentioned that as far as like when we were news reporters, that, we were field reporters, so we were always outside. And I remember soon after coming back to the East Coast and starting my business where I was inside more because I was doing video production, but usually it was in a studio, inside somewhere, or editing. And it hit me. I was like, wow, the reason why I didn't go fully insane as a news reporter was because I was outside all the time. Like it made me realize like having that difference in careers and how I was inside so much more. And even how you were saying with the smokers, like how unfortunately that area is for smokers. I've even heard smokers tell me that the reason why they love it is not for the actual nicotine hit smoking, is because it's a moment for them to be outside with themselves. So I feel like a lot of smokers have told me that they have to kind of put together a different habit in order to to not wanna smoke as much, but usually once they incorporated the habit of, "Oh, okay, I'm just gonna go outside with a Coca-Cola instead," or maybe not the healthiest thing, but something to replace the smoking, but being outside was actually part of it, and it's so, so important to us, and actually something I wanted to bring up was with your social media. I think you have a post right now that's going, like, pretty viral because you're outside with your belly out and everything. It's freezing outside, by the way, guys, and just seeing how, yeah, maybe to everyday people it looks crazy, but you're doing it for a reason. So why do you go outside the way that you do,
Yeah.
belly out and everything?
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's so funny because that is definitely something I'm getting a lot of DMs about, and a lot of people are curious. And interestingly enough, I'm getting tags from a lot of people who follow in different parts. I have a lot of people who follow from Canada, which is and interesting to me. But a lot of them have started to post themselves in the morning with their belly exposed and tagging me. And I'm just like, this is so funny. So it makes me happy that people are giving it a shot, because what I love about circadian biology and these practices is that once you implement them, you can start seeing changes in as soon as a week. For some people, depending on how attuned you are with your nervous system, which is another big problem here, people can see a difference in 2-3 days. And that's the beauty of this science. And the other beauty is it's free, right? Because so many things in the biohacking space, you need to spend so much money to be able to attain these things. But a lot of them are just enhanced packaged versions of what's already available for free in nature. And that's just something that to me is so interesting. But back to the post about the belly. So the reason I started doing this is because, well, first of all, the first thing I do when I get up, it's so funny. Right now I have blue blockers on, but I'll have my orange pair on as soon as I wake up from bed. I'm literally covering my eyes, going to grab the glasses, and I'll just put them on. And the first thing I do is I run outside. So I run outside and, in a calm way, I'm not actually running. But I get out there and I expose my eyes, and it's like a shock to the eyes because they've been in darkness. And so that first hit of light, that's what's really waking up every hormone in your body and telling them, go do this. And that sunrise signal is the ultimate redox, which just means the ability for your mitochondria to be able to kind of rejuvenate and also determine, by the way, which cells are bad and get rid of them. That is a light signal that you need every morning, and that's given through the sun at sunrise. And so when I go out there, I experience this light the first thing I do in the morning, but then I also expose my belly because a lot of people talk about the importance of gut health, right? So the gut controls your emotions. The gut controls so many issues. If you have emotional imbalances, you maybe have emotional gut dysbiosis, and a lot of people think I need to do candida protocols or I need to do all. And listen, there's a space and there's a time and place for all those things. I'm not discounting them. But if people just started with something as free and simple as lifting your shirt up to expose your stomach to what's really impacting there are the infrared and red light wavelengths of light. So those penetrate through tissue. And what that does is it modulates your gut microbiome. And in that post, I explain that the particular light that can change the bacteria in your stomach to kind of have a more beneficial bacteria is the UVB, which is the one that creates vitamin D when it hits your skin. And that's after sunrise, but I love to just go out and always expose my belly no matter the time of day because I feel benefits in digestion. I feel benefits in so many aspects and also in kind of the idea of being regular every day. So many people struggle with constipation, which is a huge issue. People are reaching for laxative. People are reaching for, eating out of season, thinking that they need to have fiber from fruits from a banana in midwinter, which is going to cause a wreck, right? People don't realize this. But just doing that simple practice, it's like clockwork. I go inside, I got to go. There's no other way to put it, my friends. That's the way you got to put it. And I notice the days I don't, I'm like, my body has no clue what time of day it is, and I am just absent. So that's the reason why I do that, because I really feel like it sets and primes my stomach for everything, digestion, mood, and in general, just well-being.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, most definitely. It's one of those things that even when I saw you doing it, I was like, what the heck is this girl doing? Like, I haven't put my belly out yet, for the sun. But now hearing you explain why, going deeper into it, it makes a lot of sense, especially because I think at one point, all of the health issues that you mentioned that doing this helped to mitigate, I've had at one point. Or even though I like to think that I'm living much more holistically now, there's still things that pop up. I mean, we're still a part of this modern world. So, kind of like you were saying with the biohacking space, it's almost one of those things where I have an inner conflict with biohacking. I've shared this with you is I feel like all of these things, like you said, are available in nature. At the same time, if you have to be in this modern world where your job requires you to be in front of a screen, to be doing all of these things that aren't as in line with nature. I see how biohacking is helping to mitigate some of those problems. So it's one of those things where I definitely went through a time where I was like, oh, if we were just living out in nature, we wouldn't need any of this stuff. But now I'm like, I'm still kind of attached to certain things here in the modern world. So maybe I still need to implement biohacking practices. So speaking to that, what are some of the biohacking practices? I mean, you have some on your face right now, but what are some of the biohacking practices that you use? Because you still do work, with a corporate job, you're still on the screens, things like that, that you have in your daily life that help you to kind of reverse some of maybe those issues they could cause.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So biohacking, it's great. There are great things about it, to your point, the things that help mitigate the issues that come along with the society in the modern day that we have to live in, because even if you move to the middle of nowhere nowadays, Gab, everything's polluted. Water, unfortunately, the earth, they are always genetically modifying our skies. If you look up, I urge anyone who listens to this podcast, look up at literally anywhere you live, and now it's being done all over the world. You will see just these foggy situations in the sky, these planes that are letting off these chemicals, right? And they're saying that this is to help increase precipitation so that it rains more, so you don't have these issues, right? But what they're putting out into the sky, these aluminum, these heavy metals, they're causing issues. And so even being outside and moving to the middle of nowhere, everyone's manipulating nature now. And so nature's not what it was at some point. unless you find some remote place. And even that, I bet you they're coming for it. So it's really tough. But there are some modern day biohacking tools that I do recommend. So what I love to do, and something that has helped my migraines, I mean, ridiculous, gone from one a week to about one, maybe two a month, which if you knew me, I mean, two, three, sometimes four headaches a week. I mean, pretty much the whole month. I probably had 4 or 5 non-headache days. So to go from 4 or 5 non-headaches to one or two every 34 days or so, I think has been an incredible improvement for my quality of life. And I urge people who have headaches to consider this advice. But the blue light blocking glasses that I wear, so what these do, these are yellow lenses. And what these do is they actually block all of the negative blue light that we are exposed to when we are somewhere that only has blue light. What do I mean by that? Pretty much any office space. The bulbs that you're using, those large panels, that is going to be 100% blue light. And we're not meant to be under 100% of any light ever. The sun, which is the primary source of light for the planet, is always in balance. So it has blue light, but it also has infrared light. It also has red light. It has far infrared, mid infrared. There are so many spectrums of light. It's balanced perfectly. And that is what we need. So what happens when we step away from that perfectly balanced sun and we go into a space that's 100% blue? Our bodies go into chaos because they're confused. They don't know what to do with that information because we didn't evolve to live under that type of lighting. And unfortunately, at some point, we did have incandescent bulbs, and incandescent bulbs actually let out blue, but they let out also red, infrared. And that was the primary source of light, by the way, Gab, for a long time, until they made it and they started phasing it out as not energy efficient. And that's when they introduced the LED light bulb, which was 100% blue light. And when that happened, that's when, and there's some studies on this, where you can start to see a really big increase in a lot of chronic conditions that people are dealing with in modern day society that they did not deal with prior to the advent of the LED bulb. So what is the reason that I wear these glasses? Well, these glasses filter out some of the negative effects of that blue light so that you still have some, because I don't want to demonize. A lot of people demonize blue light. You need blue light to be alert. You need blue light to be awake. That's why there's blue light in the environment during the day. It's just that the sun balances out with other lights so that it's in the perfect amount. So what do these glasses do? They essentially give you the perfect amount of the blue light, and they block the amount that's going to make you really hungry, craving snacks at the wrong time of day, lethargic when you get that 2 p.m. crash. At the office at 2 p.m., everyone's going downstairs for Starbucks. They are exhausted. I'm chilling. I'm perfectly fine because I'm not getting that 100% exposure. So love blue light blocking glasses, which, by the way, these come with clip-ons. So once the sun sets, I'm able to put on orange clip-ons, and those then help protect my circadian rhythm at night so that I can increase melatonin and go to sleep easily. So these are really great because you can clip on the different types of lenses. So this is a great biohacking tool. These are Viva Rays, and I love that company. There are some reputable ones, but nowadays everyone's coming up with a blue light blocking glasses, and you have to be really careful to not get gypped because a lot of people aren't doing the science that's required to really get those light spectrums right. Another tool that I use is a Loom box, and it's essentially just red and infrared light. So that's what's present in the sun, and that's what helps with inflammation, skin health, mitochondrial function, so many different things. And so if I can't be outside in the sun all day long, people in my office will think I'm nutty because I bring in my Loom box and I'll put it on my desk and I'll press the button and I'm getting irradiated with red and infrared light. Why then, Kat? Because I'm trying to imitate what the sun is doing, but indoors. So, and that gives me such an energy boost, and humans are naturally attracted to it because there's this funny joke where people at the office go near me and they're like, "Can we sit with you, Jen? Can we just sit and get a little bit of this for a little? And I'm like, please come. And so that's another tool that I use. And then the last one that I'll mention that I really enjoy is something called a prana mat. And that's essentially a mat that does acupressure. So you lay down on it, and it really has these little points that kind of stimulate the flow of qi, which is a life source in Chinese medicine. And so many of us have these either emotions we're not expressing, or we're tense from sitting at an office all day. I know we talk about posture a lot. And so sitting on this and laying on this really helps to move the energy in the body, and it really helps just bring the body back into just a good state of flow. And I love those tools to use because not all of us have the time to do a 50-minute stretch, right? So 10 minutes on that mat at the end of the day can really set you up for a good night's sleep. So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. But the one thing I want to highlight is those first two resources that you mentioned is it's really trying to help or to almost copy the effects of the sun.
100%.
So something that you and I have talked about, and I feel like I've even seen kind of your evolution when it comes to changing perspectives on the sun, is there's a lot of, I think, scarce ideals on the sun as far as being afraid of it, using heavy sunscreen so that you don't, get skin cancer or sunburn or all of these types of things. I guess now, how has your opinion of like the sun changed? Is it still this big scary thing, or now like I feel like you're talking about it like it's your friend?
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. So
Absolutely. No, Gab, I think that to me, and listen, I urge everyone who listens to this, one of the number one things that I say is don't really take any information that you get from me or anyone at face value. Try things for yourself. Do your research, experiment it, because when you do that, you'll start to realize real quick what really works and what isn't really working for you. And that became extremely obvious to me when I started to the idea of going into the sun at first scared me because, to your point, Gab, it's been demonized in our society. Everyone is always saying, be careful with the UV rays, right? When you're growing up, all you hear here in Jersey, News 12, the meteorologists you're going to say something like, all right, folks, be careful with the UV today because we're going to be reaching UV 5 or 6, which can be very dangerous. So make sure you're lathering up, make sure you're staying in the shade. And so when you're listening to this information, kind of on a conscious and even subconscious level, your whole life, it's very easy to be afraid because you don't want to get the big C. Right? Everyone's afraid of cancer. And one of the number one things that people associate with cancer is the sun because they think melanoma, which is a very aggressive cancer. They think all of these different issues are going to come about. Or what is something else that the Western world is obsessed with? Beauty, right? So the sun's going to make you old. So people don't want to go in the sun because they're like, oh no, I'm going to wrinkle up. And so you have this whole generation of influencers talking about, oh no, we're getting closer to summer. So make sure you start getting, here's a discount code for this sunscreen and for this hat and the fedora, and make sure that you're covering your entire body. And people don't realize, Gab, the glow up you get from sitting in the sun is a glow up that will never be sold to you in a bottle. When I tell you that this past summer, I started doing this slowly, by the way, because I was like, I don't want to get skin cancer. And I was like, how could this be true? Everything I'd been told. But a ton of research led me to give it a shot. And so I started going into it slowly. And I was like, what happens if I sit out here for an hour with no sunscreen? And so I started implementing that. And I did it slowly the whole summer. And I noticed when I would go to work that people would be like, what new like foundation are you using, or what self tanner, and I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not using anything. I don't even have makeup on. And they'd be like, but what's going on? And I'm like, I'm just sitting in the sun. And people don't realize the sun and vitamin D, it's a giant collagen production. So everyone is looking for collagen to be youthful and to look beautiful. And they're saying, which is the best supplement? And where is this and that? Where can I go buy this? My friends, it's free. It's present in the sun if you use it intelligently, because anything overdone, even water, can kill you. Can do the wrong thing. And I think people don't have the education around proper sun exposure, which I'm happy to share about, and how to build up on that. But the sun, to me, has fixed so many issues that I just learned quite literally through trial and error. I'm sitting out here. Do I feel better? Do I feel all of the different issues that I usually feel when I'm inside? No, I feel 100% better. So to me, it became obvious. I'm like, I've been lied to. Quite frankly, I've been lied to. And so I saw such a drastic change in so many aspects of my life that I'm like, something's not adding up here. I'm gonna trust nature. I'm gonna trust the sun. So
Sure.
yeah.
No, I totally feel you on this because I definitely was an avid sunscreen user.
Me too.
And then after, just different research or different perspectives, even not even necessarily diving into all of the studies, but I slowly also changed my habits as far as, okay, I'm just going to go out in the morning for my morning walk
Yes.
without sunscreen.
100%.
And then I'll put it on later. And, and then slowly just like not really using it at all. But something that I know you've talked about is kind of building your solar callus.
Oh yeah.
And there's actually two things I want to talk about when it comes to this, like this misconception of the sun being, the devil, the sun being a bad thing, the sun causing wrinkles and all these different things, is I actually feel that because we're a part of Western society, I mean, you and I are both Latina.
Yeah.
So for the most part, especially when it comes to colonization and all of these types of things, who are the people, for the most part, who have the control of the narrative? We'll say white people, right? So
throughout history,
white people, they don't need as much sun as probably you and I or someone who has darker skin.
100%.
So it makes sense why, if these are the people who are running the narrative as far as how much sun exposure we should be getting, but you and I don't have the same complexion that they do. You and I don't have the same background, or maybe even biologically, even further on, our gut processes different foods differently.
100%.
So when it comes to building a solar callus, and no matter what color you are, whether you're white, black, in between, whatever it is, what do you think people need to know in order to develop a healthy relationship with the sun? Again, not just going from wearing sunscreen all the time to being, full bore in the sun for hours and hours and hours, but what's kind of a healthy way to kind of build that practice in a way that's not going to give you melanoma?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's such a good point. I love that. And Gab, I think something that you hit on that I think is so important is this idea of the bio-individuality of every person, and the fact that you're right. We have all been given the same prescription, which, by the way, if you think about it, is very similar to the way that allopathic medicine is ran. The idea that when you go in because you have, let's say, I don't know, we're just going to throw a yeast infection out there, right? They're going to give you the same antibiotic to every single woman who walks into that office with the same symptoms will get that same pill. I think it's called like fluconazole or something. I recall that at one time. How can it be that everyone who's going outside, who's going to the doctor's office with so many different backgrounds, perspectives, food that they're eating, work environment, emotional traumas, different things, even just where they live, how could it be that we're all given the same answer? And that's the same situation with the sun, is that no one's taken into account different people have different melanin. So different, and melanin, by the way, folks, is what determines your skin color. So everyone is bio-individual, so everyone needs different sun exposure. And that's not taken into account in the mainstream narrative because all we're being told is sun is bad for everyone. And there's no accountability or thought process behind, but what if you hail from an equatorial region? What if you come from a place where there is high quality sun year round and you're moving somewhere, the United States, Canada, a place with very little sun in Europe, right, with immigration, and you're being told, don't go outside. But if you were in your native homeland, you'd be outside all the time receiving a completely different quality sun than what you're being exposed to. That's a dangerous narrative. And that is one of the reasons why there are so many chronic health issues in this country. And it's truly upsetting. So you hit it on the nail on the head there, Gab, with the value individuality. I love that you said that.
Sure. No, I appreciate you recognizing that because it's one of those things where I took that narrative in. I lived by that narrative when
Yeah.
it comes to the sunscreen and everything, and
Yeah.
always trying to be protected for the most part. Sometimes I was lazy about it, or lazy as far as that narrative goes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Probably good, for what I
Yeah.
feel now.
I'm so glad I was
But
lazy.
yeah, I was lazy about it. So
So happy.
it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of people, they take this information because it's coming from a reputable source. And maybe the source is reputable,
Yeah.
but they're not thinking about themselves as the individual, about their uniqueness, about everything that we just mentioned, the
Yeah.
background, um, what you're eating, all of these things. Also, I actually found a couple of studies that linked skin cancer more so to the seed oils that we're consuming
Yeah.
rather than the actual sun exposure. It's
Mm-hmm.
because the seed oils are changing our skin in a
Yep.
way that when we do get that sun,
You burn.
that's when you burn, and that's where it causes the issues. So
100%.
it's not necessarily what you're putting on your skin, but also what you're putting in your body that's
100%.
really hurting people. But again, a lot of people don't think of this holistically. And I also feel like when you're in a vulnerable situation, like maybe you have some sort of health ailment, maybe
Yeah.
it's not a yeast infection, maybe it's something,
More
a little
serious.
stronger or serious. And when you're in those vulnerable situations, especially if you're very uncomfortable, maybe just there's a lot of pain,
Yeah.
you go to the doctor and you're like, oh my God, whatever, please give me whatever. Like
Yeah.
whatever's going to take this away. And most of the time, it's taking away the symptom. I feel like 95% of the time, it's not really helping to reverse the issue. It's
No.
just taking away the symptom, and it could potentially cause other issues. So, something that you mentioned a little bit earlier too is finding this inner peace. You can do all of these different things as far as biohacking, changing your diet, being out in the sun more or less or at different times. But for you, what has finding more of an inner peace, maybe connection to the creator, things like that? How do you feel like that's brought more balance in your life and also for your health?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that something that is honestly it's crazy, Gab, because everything ties back to light for me. Everything. Because so the reason that I've been able to have a stronger connection now with my faith, and I think that everyone personally, my belief is that everyone should believe in something greater than themselves, because if not, who are you counting on, or what are you counting on? And that to you, it can be whatever that may be. I'm a Christian, so for me that's Jesus, but everyone can pick whatever it is that appeals to them. But truthfully, the reason that I've been able to kind of get into this and really hone in on my faith is because I've stopped being distracted. And what do I mean by that? One of the biggest issues with light, and there, you guys can look this up, when Steve Jobs was creating all of the different Apple products, there's there is proof that he did not let his children use these products because they knew through so many different studies, because they studied all of these things beforehand. It's unfortunate to realize that there's so much malice in the world, but you really have to do research to kind of understand. If someone is creating something and profiting off of it, but not letting their family use it, don't you think there's a red flag there? There's a red flag there, my friends. And he essentially didn't let his children use it because they showed, and especially in children, that blue light creates an addictive quality in the human. And essentially, once you start, you can't stop. So that narrative of like TikTok being addicting, it is quite literally true. And not just because what you're watching is interesting, but rather because your dopamine system is being hijacked by blue light. So blue light feeds your dopamine system the way that junk food does, the way that artificial sugar does. It works on a very basically the same pathways of the brain. And so when you start, it's very hard to let go. And that's why so many people are addicted to their phones, to TV shows, to screens, to all of these different things. And when you are giving your attention fully to football on Sundays, The Bachelor, to whatever it is, the TikTok creator that's talking about their personal life, whatever it is, right? then you are no longer finding any reason to connect with just yourself or to wonder about what else is there because you're so enthralled in other things. And so when I decided to intentionally, because you have to be intentional about this, put locks on my phone using apps so that I can't access the social media, so that I'm not on my phone all the time. When I started using these glasses, which block the blue light that makes you addicted to these phones and to these screens, that's when I started just sitting around. And so, what happens when you sit around? Guess what? Our ancestors, people back in the cave days, and in these olden times, they were literally sitting around. And that's why they had the ability to be imaginative and think about these stories and create these hieroglyphics and talk about and praise the sun and these ceremonies and the beauty of life that happens when you have stillness. But we don't have stillness anymore because we're always going on and on and on with some form of distraction, which is piloted by blue light. So when I started intentionally blocking blue light, that's when I started wondering, hey, why do I feel a little empty? Why am I sad? Why do I actually enjoy these people in my life? Am I aligned with what I'm doing every day? And let me tell you, it's an ugly wake up. There's a lot of tears because when you stop the distraction, you have to deal with what's going on. And when you have to deal with what's going on, that to me is when you seek a higher power because you can't do it all alone. And that's when I started going to church. And that's when I started finding my faith and kind of putting my trust in something bigger than me. And it gave me a lot of peace. And so to me, the key, and if anyone's interested in kind of pursuing or connecting with something more than themselves, you're going to need silence. And that always ties back to light. So that's really where I saw the biggest jump in my faith, Gab.
That's huge.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I could feel that on a visceral level because I don't think people understand. They know they're distracted, but they don't understand the deeper repercussions
Yeah.
of what you were just saying.
Or even why.
Or why. And actually, my husband said this the other day where we're all high on dopamine. It's one of those things that I feel like women in particular, the reason why women suffer more with depression than men do is because dopamine isn't our main reward system. Oxytocin is.
Yeah.
So oxytocin, that's the connection. That's when you're hanging out with your girlfriends. That's when you're getting a cuddle or a hug from a loved one. And dopamine actually squelches oxytocin. So when you're doing all of these things that are giving you a dopamine hit, yeah, it feels good at the time, whether it's a screen or junk food or all these different things, but it's actually taking away for a woman the feeling of feeling more connected, which is much more important for us than it is for men. It's not important, but we need oxytocin even more so.
Yeah.
And that stillness that you were talking about, I feel like a lot of people, when I've talked about meditation, because that's a part of my practice, is they always tell me, oh, I have so many thoughts, I can't, get silent, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's not the point to necessarily get silent. It's just to really be away from the distractions so that you can sit with yourself, so that you can analyze some of these thoughts that are going through and process them. Because the issue is a lot of people, they have these different thoughts or they get all of this information on social media, but they don't actually process it. They don't sit with it and think, is that something that actually resonates with me, that aligns with my core values? They just kind of keep going, keep swiping, keep swiping, because I feel like what a lot of people would find in having a good connection or a stronger connection to the creator, whatever belief system that is for you, whether it's the Abrahamic religions, the Eastern belief systems, which what's interesting is when you start reading them for yourselves, you actually see so many synchronicities. A lot of times people are trying to, oh, Christianity is the way, the only way. Hinduism is the way, the only way.
Yeah.
And when you actually read them, you're like, wait, they're aligned in a lot of ways. Yeah, they have slightly different practices, maybe different names, different stories, but the core elements are all there.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what all of these belief systems urge you to do is to meditate or pray. Every single one. And what are you doing? You're by yourself during these times.
Yeah.
You're in silence. You're away from the distractions of the world. And I feel that Western society, even people who do go to church on Sundays, have completely taken that out of their daily practice. I feel
Yeah.
like there are people who go to church on Sunday, they feel like they're able to fill up their cup in a certain way, their spiritual cup, but they don't pray every single day. They don't read a passage from the Bible every single
Yeah.
day. They don't have these times where they're able to sit with themselves to connect to the Creator. And that's actually why when I was in Turkey last year, you hear the call to prayer every few hours. And I thought that was so beautiful because whether you actually do stop and pray or not doesn't matter. It's just this reminder of, hey, the Creator's still there, which
Yeah.
I loved so much that we don't really have here anymore because, especially in the corporate world, God forbid you talk about having a relationship with the Creator. God forbid you talk about your religious views. God forbid you talk about your beliefs. And of course, that's not to make anybody wrong, but now talking about your beliefs in the professional world has become demonized.
Of course.
And Western society is so about professional life that I think that's what's separating people even more so. But even when it comes to your health,
Yeah.
how do you feel like that's even helped your health as well as having a stronger connection and that inner peace and that stillness that you were mentioning?
Yeah. I mean, I would say for my health, I mean, it's just it's been very, very beneficial in terms of kind of letting go of the need to fix, which kind of brings us back to what we were chatting about at the beginning, that I noticed a lot of people are always looking to fix something, whether it's at the very basic level. Everyone seems to want to lose weight. Everyone wants to be younger. Nobody wants to die. Everyone's afraid of death. And all of these concepts just go back to not having a sense of inner peace. And kind of because when you have a sense of inner peace, you're okay with your body. You're okay with growing older. We have such a society obsessed with Botox and all of these the fillers and so many of these things, which, by the way, my friends, those are toxins to your mitochondria. They're quite literally making you older, and you think they're making you younger. And it is just so backwards. And for me, just letting go of the idea of control and having to control everything, but instead going to the word, which I engage with daily, and kind of reading something, and even just the most basic one for me, be still and let God, is just so important because I'm like, I don't have to figure this out. I don't need to run to this functional medicine doctor that's going to draw 67 labs and this other doctor that's telling me I got to do a 7-part elimination diet, or the influencer was telling me I have to go find a hyperbaric oxygen chamber to renew my cells. I'm like, actually, maybe I'm going to be okay if I just lean into the faith that I will be okay if I just stop trying to control everything. And that alone, the letting go of all that stress, is what puts your body back into a feeling of not running away from this imaginary tiger that we were running away from, back when we were actual cave people and running for our lives, right? It's that feeling of fight or flight. When you're stressed, that's what your body's in. Fight or flight. And what does a sense of religion or a sense of purpose do for you? A sense of peace? It takes you out of fight or flight. It puts you into parasympathetic. And in that moment, you can start to heal and you realize you don't actually need the 67 labs or the 7 supplements every morning or the AG1 powder. You actually can just be still. And it's easier, right, said than done. And it's even harder because we're so programmed to get up and switch on the news, get up and go on your. We were not designed, Gabby, to know what's going on at all times in every part of the world. And if you just swipe on TikTok or Instagram 6 times, you will find out every tragedy that's happening, not just on a global scale, but the person who's battling a terrible disease, which is so horrible, right? But we can barely keep up with our own issues from our life. How could we be taking on all of these other things? It's no wonder that we're a mess.
Mhm. It's
So,
true. And I feel like people don't understand how just swiping for so long is so ingrained in our subconscious. How
yeah.
I think that's something people feel like people know that we're stressed, but it's more of a subconscious stress that's really
Oh,
killing
yeah.
us. And I feel like, to your point of having all of these distractions and not having any faith that there's something higher taking care of us is really coming from fear.
Yeah.
It's a fear of, and at first, a lot of these fears seem very superficial. A fear of, oh, okay, for you and I, since we used to be news reporters, oh, I have to keep up with what's going on. I have to know what's going on in the world, current
Yeah.
events because, I have to be relevant, a fear of being irrelevant.
Yeah.
But really, what I found when I started diving deeper into some of my fears, finally giving, myself a chance to just sit still with myself, was a lot of these silly fears are coming from something much deeper. So for me, what kept me probably in the news industry as long as I was that external validation. But what a lot of people confuse external validation with is actually love. They feel like, oh, because I'm getting attention, oh, I'm finally getting the love that I really seek. And it's not just love that people are seeking from a significant other. I think the love that they're really seeking is from something that's higher, is from something that's up above, that's really helping them in a more spiritual sense and
Yeah.
not necessarily the love that you get from your friends, from your family, which these are all important things. These are a part of life. And
Of
I do
course.
believe that they're important,
Yeah.
but you're not going to be getting love in the type of way that you need from every person in your life all the time,
Yeah.
which is also why I feel like people need some sort of connection to the creator in order to really be able to sustain that. And I believe it even says in the Bible, do not live in fear if you're with me.
Yeah.
Because and that's the thing is because I grew up in a very Christian household, whenever I see people in my family who are very fearful of things, I know they're not living the word of God.
Yeah.
And that's something that can frustrate me because, you're preaching one thing, but you're doing another.
Yeah.
You're preaching one thing, but the way that you're living, the symptoms that are coming out in your body, like, hello, it's like,
Yeah.
come on, people, let's wake up to this now. But the thing is, people have to go through their own experiences.
100%.
And I know you and I have talked about as far as maybe sharing some of this knowledge as far as bettering our health in particular
Yeah.
to our family members and maybe getting some pushback.
Yeah.
How have you been able to deal with some of that pushback with sharing some of your newfound knowledge to your friends, to your family members? Because a lot of times, I'm sure you've dealt with this, especially with your belly out on social media. Like, what is Jen doing now? Like, what's going on? So,
Oh,
how have you
yeah.
kind of dealt with that pushback lately?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna get into that in one second, but I did want to note one other thing, just on the cosmos and the idea of faith is that I challenge people to find a place if they can, maybe when they travel, right? Because sometimes that's our only opportunity. A place that doesn't have so much light pollution, because one of the biggest reasons that I also believe that we don't think there's something bigger than us is because I don't know if people ever really sit under a night sky. And the ability to see all of the cosmos up, the stars, and all of the beauty, it really leaves you in awe if you ever go to upstate New York. Or I recently traveled to Arizona and I went to Flagstaff where they have an observation deck. It's actually on top of a building and you sit. It's actually really neat. The seats are warmed up. It's the Lowell Observatory if anybody goes out there. And you look up and the entire sky, they have no light pollution, Gab. They have a whole radius where you can't have any LEDs. Everything is red lit there. All the bulbs, everything. So you look up and you just see this magnificent sky. And humans don't see that anymore because we have so much light pollution. So, what is there to be in awe about? What is there to wonder about? Of course the TV looks better. I mean, look at the beauty of the Western Woman podcast, the logo here, these stars. If we had the ability to see that every night, how could you not think there's something more in the universe? That's the all that we're missing. And again, the light story, it's being destroyed by light. And you don't have the ability to wonder, who created this? How did we get here? Whatever you want to believe. So I just wanted to touch on that because when you really see a beautiful night sky, that's another thing that to me changes a lot. So I do challenge people to check that out when they can, when they travel. Unfortunately, right, we have to travel to do this. It's not just available to us anymore. But anyways, going back to the aspect of family pushback, I would say that it's definitely, I think human beings are interested in what you do in terms of kind of leading by example. So I always sit outside in the morning and I'm kind of just standing there. Truthfully, nobody's around. Nobody's around at sunrise. So not that many people can ask me questions. But when people do start venturing out, and I'm usually out getting UVB, the study I told you about that has shown in stool that if you expose your stomach to UVB light, which is the light spectrum that produces vitamin D, that happens only at a certain part of the day, though, and that changes depending on your latitude and where you're located. So a lot of people think it's available all day long. It's not. When you do that, they have shown then that people who expose their stomach to the UVB light have a change in the bacteria of their stool just through that light exposure. So what you're taking in a probiotic, you can get from the sun for free, and it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes in the studies. We're looking at something like billions of beneficial bacteria that start to grow because of this exposure, particularly to the light, the red light and the infrared light that comes with the UVB spectrum. By the way, Gab, they tested this also in people who were taking a vitamin D supplement. Because people a lot of times think, I'll take a vitamin D supplement, that's the same as being in the sun. Or even worse, a lot of people don't even know that the sun does vitamin D.
Yeah, that's kind of the narrative we're being told, is that everybody's vitamin D deficient. But why is that?
Yeah. So the vitamin D deficiency is huge because you have to always follow the money. So when you go to the doctor and they tell you you're vitamin D deficient, right, they're actually taking a blood sample of vitamin D that, by the way, people don't know this, but you can test for so many types of vitamin Ds in the body. But the doctor's not going to test for that. They're going to test for the one that they can make money off of, which is the only one that can be spiked through a supplement. They're not going to test you for the vitamin D that is actually stored inside of your skin, which, by the way, is the one that actually helps protect against all these cancers and all of these situations like Alzheimer's and all-cause mortality, cardiovascular health. So many of the actual protection comes from the vitamin D that's only given from the sun, the UVB spectrum sun. And a lot of people think that they can take a supplement and that supplement is going to replace the sun. That's been shown in studies that it just cannot compare. It's not the same. And so the reason that I was mentioning that I sun my belly is because it's modulating the microbiome and it's giving this incredible amount. We're talking thousands of beneficial bacteria that people are taking in a probiotic form. They take everybody loves probiotics now, prebiotics. Everyone's even putting them in protein powders. I mean, again, we're just mimicking nature. We're just trying to fix it. And so people take the probiotic that has to be put in the fridge or the probiotic that has to be kept for only 5 days or whatever gimmick they can invent to make you think that it's going to be more effective for you. And so what I have found, and the studies show this, is if you go outside and expose your belly to UVB light, which is a specific spectrum of light only available during a specific part of the day. And if you're interested in looking up when that particular time is, for example, in New Jersey right now, that's from about 9:45 a.m. till about 2. So during that spectrum of time, you can generate vitamin D if you expose your skin to the sun. But the key is you also have to make sure that your eyes are exposed. So you can't have contact lenses, you can't have glasses, because what did everyone do? Because UV is so bad, they blocked it. So your glasses block UV, your contacts block UV, the windows in your car block UV, the windows in your house block UV. So if you think that you're sitting in your car and you're feeling the nice sun, no, that's not happening. You're actually only getting blue light because it filters out all the other types of UV and leave only the one that society loves for us, blue light. And so what I mean with the vitamin D supplementation is that it showed in the studies that the people who took the vitamin D supplement and the people who just exposed their stomach to the UVB light, only the people who exposed their stomach got the beneficial bacteria. The people who took the vitamin D supplement received no benefit. And that's really where the difference is. And with the vitamin D deficiency is so crazy because people think, well, I'll just take this pill all year and I'll be fine. But I'll be the first to tell you that that has not been the case for me. Being outside and generating the real vitamin D is what's moved the needle for me in every aspect of my health. So,
And I know you get your blood samples, you get your blood work done. Like, so you actually have seen in your results, like the changes and everything too. So, I mean, I've seen the results in your mood and, your personality, in just feeling more at purpose in what you're doing in life and how you share on social media. It's like night and day. It's one of those things that I feel like people, of course, this is going to help with your health, but just how you look at the world too and your perspective, I feel like it really lightens up. So I want to say thank you for also changing my perspective on certain things. I should have come to this episode with some blue light blockers because I love yours. But it's one of those things that what I love about our conversations is I feel like I have become more in line with nature, or I've tried to better things in my own home as far as like not being as toxic, not being as polluted, whether it's light pollution or just other pollution in my household. And these things, like, they seem small, but they do make a difference. And I'm so glad that you're sharing this on social media. So where can people find you?
Yes, so the Instagram handle is at Rhythms with Jen. So just the rhythms of life, the rhythms of everything, circadian rhythms. That's why I picked it. But that's my primary place, Instagram. Yeah.
So go follow her. You could see her with her belly out and everything. But thank you again so much for being here.
Of course. Thanks, Kat.